Welcome to Day 22 on the Trail. We have 4 readings for today. From Luke chapter 11, verses 14 through 36, Genesis 37, verses 1 through 36, the 34th Psalm, and Sirach chapter 29, verses 1 through 28. As we begin the extended story of Joseph in Genesis 37, we find Jacob, his father, playing favorites with Joseph. Joseph is the son of Jacob's favored wife, Rachel, and therefore this causes conflict and jealousy among Joseph's brothers. Then, to deepen the divide and further set him apart from his brothers, Jacob gives Joseph a coat with long sleeves. Now, Joseph is not completely innocent in all of this. In fact, Joseph has 2 dreams in which he indicates that he will one day rule over his family. And then he decides to share these dreams with them. Perhaps it may have been better for Joseph to keep these dreams to himself. Now, throughout the story of Joseph, dreams will play a large part in the life of Joseph. Note that in these first 2 dreams found in chapter 37, Joseph is the recipient of the dreams. Later, when Joseph is imprisoned in Egypt, he will become the interpreter of dreams. As our story unfolds, Joseph heads to Shechem to check on his brothers, who should be shepherding the flocks near Shechem. Instead, they have decided to go to Dothan. So when Joseph arrives, the brothers are not happy to see him. They are not only jealous of Joseph, but now they also think he is spying on them for their father. Then, in their anger, they decide to kill Joseph. However, Reuben, Jacob's oldest son, devises a plan to save Joseph. He has the brothers throw Joseph into a pit and plans to return to the pit later to rescue Joseph from his brothers. While Reuben is away, Judah suggests selling Joseph to a group of Ishmaelites. Now note the connection of these passing Ishmaelites to Hagar and her son Ishmael. Hagar was originally from Egypt, which will be Joseph's final destination and the land in which he will be enslaved. When Reuben returns, he finds Joseph gone. So the brothers conspire to deceive their father into believing Joseph was slain by wild animals, and they use Joseph's coat with long sleeves to sell the deception. Also, pay special note to the role of Judah in the actions of Joseph's brothers. Judah is the one who leads the effort to sell Joseph into slavery. This will be a very important element to the continuing story of Joseph and his brothers. In Sirach, chapter 29, we find warnings against lending. However, in the middle of this section, we see a very familiar emphasis on generosity. Verses 10 and 11 say this: "Lose your silver for the sake of a brother or a friend, and do not let it rust under a stone and be lost. Lay up your treasures according to the commandments of the Most High, and it will profit you more than gold." This probably sounds very familiar, as we find similar views on our possessions in the 6th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Finally, in Luke chapter 11, Jesus casts out a demon. However, some in the crowd accuse him of casting out this demon by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons. Now, there are some very important lessons contained in this passage. First, in verses 17 through 18, Jesus says, "Every kingdom divided against itself becomes a desert, and house falls on house. If Satan also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand? On the surface, we are reminded that divisions will lead to the downfall of any family, community, or nation. However, Jesus is also asking his inquisitors, why would Satan work against his own interests? Second, in verse 20, Jesus adds, "But if it is by the finger of God that I cast out the demons, then the kingdom of God has come to you." They are given two options. Either they believe that Satan is working against himself, or Jesus' power to cast out demons is the power of God, and then God is therefore among them. So now they have to choose. Also, this proclamation by Jesus that the kingdom of God has come to you reveals an important truth about his kingdom. It is here, now, among us. We do not just wait for God's kingdom. Through Jesus, it has arrived. We call this the already, not yet. This means that the kingdom of God is present in Jesus, and therefore it is present with us today as well. At the end of Matthew's Gospel, Jesus promised to be with us always. Therefore, his kingdom is here. However, until his return, it is not yet complete. Finally, Jesus leaves us with an important warning against complacency. Jesus says that once a demon is cast out, the person is swept clean. Beginning in verse 24. When the unclean spirit has gone out of a person, it wanders through waterless regions, looking for a resting place. But not finding any, it says, "I will return to my house from which I came." When it comes, it finds it swept and put in order. Then it goes and brings 7 other spirits, more evil than itself, and they enter and live there. And the last state of that person is worse than the first. If someone has been cleansed, and they do not actively seek the kingdom, if they do not actively seek to follow Jesus, they are in danger of slipping back into their former ways of life, into their previous habits. Throughout the Bible, we have a concept known as the 2 ways. Either we are moving toward Christ and growing in our relationship with him, or we are moving away toward darkness. And that darkness can continue to grow and consume every aspect of our lives. And how deep is that darkness? Here, Jesus reminds us that there's no neutral ground. There's no place to stand and wait. Instead, we are to follow him today. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, stay on the trail.